Oh.
All right. Roughly 2 years ago, I think, it was either 2 years or 3 years, but 2 to 3 years ago, I was staying in Mississippi when we discovered that my grandfather, who is a retired Mississippi cop, is a racist. We discovered this when my Uncle Boyd told me the story of him taking his black friend, Ray, who has eyes like this, over to his house. And my grandpa replied with, quote, "Don't let that goddamn nigger in my house." So, when going to my grandma and grandfather's house one day for lunch, we discovered Leroy. Now, Leroy here had been sitting... What are you doing? Don't change my story. Leroy here had been sitting on a stump, and in his little hands here was a fishing pole. And he was sitting there fishing. We could see that he was fishing for a master, my grandfather. We decided that Leroy deserved a better life than this. So, it was midnight. My family and I were about to go back to Michigan, here, to this house, this very house. The next morning, midnight, pouring in the rain, my uncle, my brother, and I, all dressed in solid black, using our T-shirts to make ninja masks. We drove down my grandmother's lane, and with a crack of thunder, we opened the door. And my brother hopped the fence, grabbed Leroy up. We hadn't expected this. Leroy, in fact, weighs 50 pounds and is made of solid concrete. So, clear the way, I'm going to do an example. So, my brother lifting him, moves, and almost drops him, but he manages to make it all the way across the yard and over to the fence where I am waiting, and I catch him. I didn't know he was so long, he was so heavy. So, my uncle had turned around in the van, so here I am waddling down the road towards my uncle's van, and eventually we jump in, but then his fishing pole breaks off, and my uncle yells, "Leave it, leave it!" And we realized that fishing pole, was a symbol of his oppression. We arrived home the next day at about 10 p.m., placed him proudly on the back porch, where he has been liberated ever since. Update. The last time we went down to Mississippi, we found a statue that was exactly like Leroy, but white. And it was from the same shop where my grandfather said he bought Leroy. You know what this means? This means that he bought a white statue, painted it black, set it in his backyard as a system of slavery. Update again. The last time we went there, the latest news was that my grandfather blamed the black family across the street. Final update. 2 years ago, I took a picture of Leroy in the snow with snow piled up on his head about yay high and wrote Happy Holidays and printed out a card and sent it to my grandparents. And that is the legend of Leroy Jenkins.
What a story, Mark.